Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And today I'm reviewing a film that is now available for streaming. The movie that I'm referring to is the 2025 film The Bayou, directed by Tennelly Mastonin and Brad Watson. So the horror genre of animal attack movies are some of my favorites. I'm not exactly sure why, but there's just something fun and potentially realistic about it. And this one actually came out earlier this year, but that was on video on demand. And I actually wasn't aware of it until it just recently came to a free streaming service. So our film starts off in the bayou where a drug raid is occurring. The DEA is breaking their way in, and all of a sudden everyone inside is freaking out and doing whatever they can to try to get rid of what's inside. Now, some of the people end up overturning some barrels of some chemicals that end up going into the river, which ends up being a big issue as all of these chemicals are now affecting the alligators in the local area. So we'll get back to that part of the story in a moment. But first, we have to meet our main characters, which are a group of friends or semi friends named Kyle, Alice, Sam, and Malika. Now, like I was saying, not everyone in this group is actually friends, but they all have one common denominator. They were all friends with Kyle's brother, Jamie, who unfortunately passed away not too long ago. The four of them decide to take a road trip together from Texas to Florida to scatter Jamie's ashes. Now, Malika has the bright idea of saving some time by hiring a private plane to go from Texas to Florida much faster. Now, Malika seems to have forgotten that Kyle has a fear of flying, and after seeing the plane and the pilot Frank, it doesn't really help alleviate anyone's fears. It's at this point that some of the friends state that we really don't need to fly, but Kyle, not wanting to be the reason of ruining everyone's good time, decides to go onto the plane anyway. So, these four friends, the pilot, co pilot, and five other passengers, begin their trip on their way to Florida. Now, whether this was something that the passengers caused, or the fact that the plane itself was just not in the best condition, an issue arises, and now they have to do a crash landing in the middle of the Louisiana bayou. Once the survivors of the crash manage to reassemble, they try to decide whether it's best to wait here for rescue or try to venture through the swamps. It's at this point that Frank the pilot explains that the reason why the flight was so cheap is because it wasn't registered, so technically there is no rescue coming. To make matters worse, this is a section of the bayou that's so vast and large that due to the fact that they don't have a way of being tracked, if they wait here, they may never be found. So our survivors begin trekking their way through this swampy wilderness. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're not alone. Not only are they having to deal with just regular potential issues, but of course, we now have these drug fueled, highly volatile, very aggressive alligators that have been increased in size due to this mutation from the drugs. So, will anyone make it out of the bayou alive? So, I did find this movie entertaining, but I will say this, I didn't really connect with a lot of the characters. I just felt like, I don't know, I can't really tell if it's that maybe if the performances were a little bit better or if we just got to know them a little bit more, that could have helped out. But it was a little difficult to just kind of like really get into the story on this one. Now, I will say this, it is still a fun creature feature film. But another problem I had is that it did feel a lot like a sci-fi channel movie, which I don't mind those. I did like them. But here's the issue. When you see that this movie was produced by the same people that did 47 Meters and Fall, I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a higher expectation for a film that's made by those people, and this one just did not deliver. So, at least for me on my scale, I'm going to give The Bayou a 2 out of 5. If you want to check this one out for yourself, it is streaming for free on Hulu. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. And if you've already seen The Bayou, let me know what you thought about it in the comments.